He told me I was overreacting, that the late nights, locked phone, and secret work trips were for us. Then his card got declined at dinner. When I checked our account, it was empty. I tracked the charges. Hotels, jewelry, one spa package in her name. When I called her, she said, we had to do what made us happy. The next day, I froze everything, including
I'm Elise.
I'm 42 and I live in Fort Collins, Colorado. I've been married for over 12 years.
Or I was.
We had 2 kids, a nice house, and what looked like a steady life. Most people thought we were solid. I thought so too. But now I see how blind I was. How much I missed. Or maybe how much I chose to ignore. Mark, my husband, works in Denver for a construction firm. Project manager. Always busy. Always on calls. Always on the clock. It started gradually, the changes. First, he started staying later in the city. Then it was overnight trips. At first it made sense. He said he was managing a new contract and needed to be close to the site. I bought it. I trusted him. The phone thing was next. He used to leave it around. Now he carried it everywhere, even into the bathroom. He changed his passcode. I asked him why, and he laughed it off. Work stuff, babe. You wouldn't understand. I asked again once. He rolled his eyes and said, don't be that wife. That sentence still makes my skin crawl. I stopped asking. But I noticed more. He used to be present when he was home. Now, even on weekends, he was glued to his phone. He'd take calls on the porch, whispering. Said it was too loud inside. He barely touched me anymore. We used to be close even after the kids. Now I felt like a roommate. I asked him if something was going on. He said I was overreacting. He said I was acting paranoid. It's for us, he kept saying. The sacrifices now will pay off. You want that kitchen, right?
Yeah, I did.
That kitchen was our shared dream. We had savings. We were going to renovate after his bonus hit in December. So I waited. And I shut down my own instincts. 3 weeks before everything blew up, I got a call from the school. Mark was listed as the emergency contact, but didn't pick up. They called me instead. Our son had a fever. I rushed out of work. When I got home, Mark was sitting on the couch, scrolling his phone. Said he missed the call because he was on the other line. He didn't even ask how our son was feeling. That night, I stared at him while he slept. Something was off. I felt it, but I still couldn't make myself dig. Then came date night. He planned it. Picked a place in Loveland we hadn't been to in years. Said he wanted to reconnect. I got my hopes up. I dressed up. Did my hair. Told my sister to keep the kids overnight. He picked me up looking sharp, smiling like the old Mark. Opened my door, complimented me, touched my hand during dinner. It felt real. I let myself believe for 2 hours that maybe things were okay. Then the check came. He handed the card over like he always did. The waiter came back and said, sorry, sir, your card was declined. Mark chuckled like it was no big deal. That's weird. Try it again. The guy did.
Still no go.
Mark pulled out another card. That one worked. He signed quickly, but I saw his face change. Just for a second. He looked panicked. I didn't say anything, but I knew something was wrong. That night, he passed out on the couch. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling for 2 hours. Then I got up, went downstairs, opened my laptop, and checked our bank account. We had less than $300 in checking.
Savings?
Almost gone. We had over $18,000 last time I looked. It was supposed to be safe. Untouched. Our kitchen fund. Emergency money. Security.
Gone.
I started clicking through the transactions. Hotel rooms at the Maven, the Oxford, and another one in Cherry Creek. Jewelry store charges. Spa visits. A steakhouse in Denver I'd never been to. Multiple Ubers. A brunch place. But one line stood out. Laurel Wellness Spa, Nina Keller. I froze. That was a full-day couples spa package. I didn't know any Nina Keller. I looked her up. Facebook hit right away. Fitness coach.
Pretty.
Mid-30s. Her timeline was full of posts about healing, taking risks, and choosing happiness. And then there he was,
Mark.
in the background of one of her pictures, wearing a shirt I bought him. They were wine tasting. She tagged him in another post. Finally found peace. Hashtag real connection.
I saw red.
I messaged her. I didn't even care if Mark found out. I just said, "You've been using my husband and my money. Who the hell do you think you are?" She replied 5 minutes later. We had to do what made us happy. That's it. No denial. No shame. No apology. She said it like I was a roadblock. Like I was the one ruining their story. I stared at my screen for a long time. Then I stood up. Walked to the bedroom. He was snoring. Dead to the world. I didn't sleep at all that night. The next morning I made moves.
Called the bank.
Froze every account. Blocked all cards. Transferred every cent I could into an account with just my name. I pulled credit reports. Saw he'd opened 2 cards in just his name. One was maxed. The other was close. He'd borrowed against our home equity line. I hadn't even noticed. He forged my signature on the paperwork. I called a lawyer and made an appointment. Then I packed every piece of his crap into garbage bags and tossed them in the garage. I didn't cry. Not yet. He got home that night and immediately saw the bags. What the hell is this? I handed him the printed bank statements. He read them.
His face changed.
Elise, I can explain. I held up my hand.
No.
You can shut up. He tried to play it off. Said I'd misread things. That Nina didn't mean anything. Then he got mad. You had no right to touch our money. Our money. I said. You mean the money you spent on your girlfriend's spa day? He didn't even deny it. He just stared at me, jaw clenched. I told him he had 1 day to get out, and that I'd already called a lawyer. He called me vindictive. I told him he hadn't seen anything yet. Mark moved out that weekend. He went to stay with his buddy Ethan, some guy he used to work with in Denver. I didn't care. I just wanted him gone. He didn't even fight for custody. Said we'd talk about the kids later, but it was clear he wasn't interested in being a dad full-time. Fine by me. I told the lawyer everything. I printed bank statements, pulled messages, even got screenshots of Nina's posts. The lawyer told me we had a strong case, especially since Mark forged documents and misused marital funds. I was angry, but I wasn't stupid. I wasn't just going to cry and let him ruin everything we built. But then something happened that I didn't expect. 3 weeks after he left, I got served. He filed first. He filed for divorce. And in his petition, he was asking for joint custody, the house, and, get this, spousal support. He claimed I created an emotionally unstable home environment and that I refused to support his career. I swear, I almost laughed when I read it. But the rage came fast. He flipped the story. He was trying to make me look like the problem. That wasn't all. Turns out Nina wasn't just some fling. She was his business partner now. He quit his job without telling me and started some kind of side consulting company with her. He listed it in the court documents. And even worse, he claimed I drained the bank account. He said I retaliated and financially abused him. My lawyer said we'd need to prove everything with evidence, which meant digging. So I started digging. I called my cousin Bryce. He works in IT, and he's good at tracking digital footprints. I asked him to help me find anything I could use. Emails, files, anything. Within a week, Bryce found something. Mark had been using a second phone, a cheap burner, tied to a Google account under the name MK Holdings. That account had synced text messages, calendar invites, and even photos. What I found in that account made me want to throw up. There were messages between him and Nina, some disgusting, some mocking me. They joked about me being clueless, about how easy it was to move money around, about how they'd be fine once the kitchen fund hit zero. One message from Nina said, "She's too slow to notice. By the time she catches on, we'll have our own place." Then another, "Make sure to file first. That way we control the narrative." And the worst one, Don't let her lawyer scare you. You earned that money. You put up with her long enough. I took screenshots of everything. Forwarded it all to my lawyer. She went quiet for a second, then said, "We'll bury him with this." The kids started noticing things. Our daughter asked why Daddy wasn't around. I told her he had to live somewhere else for now. She asked if it was because of the lady on the phone. Turns out, she'd seen a FaceTime call pop up once. Nina's name and picture. Mark didn't even try to hide it around the kids. My son asked why we weren't going to the Rockies game Mark promised them. He said Daddy forgot. They stopped asking after a while. It broke my heart, but it also hardened me. Then one night, my sister called. She sounded nervous. "Elise, I don't want to alarm you, but I saw Mark and that woman at the bank." "What do you mean?" "They were trying to open a joint account. I overheard him give your address as his current residence." I felt sick. He was trying to use our home address to tie himself financially to something new. Maybe to make it look like he still lived here. Maybe to drag me into some debt. I called my lawyer. She advised we file a restraining order to block him from using my personal address on anything. I also went to the county clerk and filed a fraud warning notice against any attempt to take out credit under our home. A week later, a plain envelope arrived at the house. Inside was a letter from the Colorado Department of Revenue. Mark owed back taxes on freelance income from his side business. Income he never reported. And because we were still legally married, they were trying to hold me liable for it too. I lost it. I called him. First time since the day he moved out. "You crossed the line, Mark. You're dragging me into your mess." His voice was cold. "It's not my fault you didn't check the account sooner." He actually sounded smug. That's when I decided it wasn't enough to just protect myself. I needed to take him down. I started documenting everything. Every lie. Every forged form. Every nasty text. Every time he skipped seeing the kids. I got statements from neighbors, teachers, even a daycare worker who heard him curse me out during pickup. But the final twist? Bryce found an email. A thread between Mark and a guy named Jason, his former coworker. They were planning to frame me for harassment. Mark wrote, "If she starts digging, we need to say she hacked my phone. Tell them she's unstable. Maybe get a restraining order against her first." That's when I knew this wasn't just cheating. It was war. And I was going to win it. A few days after Bryce found that email thread, Mark and Jason talking about framing me, I got a text from an unknown number. "You really want to do this the hard way? Drop it. Be smart." I knew it was him. He wasn't even trying to hide it now. The threats were coming out. I didn't reply. I forwarded it to my lawyer. She told me to start preparing for trial. Mark had pushed it that far. But here's the thing. He didn't know how deep I was willing to go. That same week, I got a call from a woman named Kelly. She said, "You don't know me, but I think we have something in common." She sounded nervous. I asked her what she meant. Then she said, "I used to date Mark. A long time ago. But he's doing the same thing now that he did to me." I sat down. Kelly said Mark had a pattern. They dated in their late 20s, before he and I ever met. According to her, he used her credit to start a fake company. Promised her they were building a future. Then he drained her accounts and disappeared. Left her with over $20,000 in debt. She only found out I existed because Nina posted a picture of him last month, and her friend recognized Mark. That friend had worked with Mark at his old job and spilled everything. That's how Kelly found me. She said, "He's a fraud. He's done this before. Be careful." I started digging harder. I called one of Mark's old employers. The construction firm he left before starting the side gig with Nina. I asked to speak to someone in HR, told them who I was. Said I had legal reasons to ask a few questions. The woman paused for a long time, then said, "He was terminated. Not laid off. He never told you." Terminated. She couldn't give details, but hinted that it involved client fund mismanagement. They settled quietly. That was 4 months before I found out about Nina, which means he was jobless this whole time. And just pretending to go to work, while spending our money on her. I called my lawyer right away. She was quiet for a second, then said, "If we prove intent and financial abuse, we can not only shut him down in court, we can file civil damages." I was piecing everything together, building a full timeline. Then came the next twist. One morning, my son's iPad pinged. It was signed into an old shared Apple account from when Mark and I still synced devices. A message popped up from Nina. He must have forgotten the old account was still active. She said, "Did you shred the contracts from last year? The ones with her name?" My hands started shaking. I looked through the synced files. Sure enough, there was a folder with PDFs. Some were blank templates. Others were contracts, small business filings, NDA forms, expense statements. And one of them had my name on it. A forged signature. Mark had filed for a business grant using both our names, even though I never signed or agreed to anything. He'd claimed I was his co-founder. That made the funding qualify for a women-owned business program. It was fraud. And if anyone checked, I could have been liable. I took all of it, every screenshot, document, and message to the lawyer. She pulled in a second attorney who handled white-collar cases. They both told me the same thing. Mark could go to jail. But we had to be smart. If we reported it too early, he'd cover his tracks. So I played it cool. I acted like I was breaking down. I stopped fighting as hard. I gave him just enough room to think I was falling apart. I even agreed to a co-parenting meeting he suggested at a neutral public spot. He showed up in sunglasses, acting smooth. Wore a watch I knew he couldn't afford. "I knew you'd come around," he said. I nodded. "Maybe I just don't have the energy to fight anymore." He smiled. "That's what I'm talking about. No need for court battles." Then he leaned in and said, "You know, if you play this smart, I might even throw you a cut once my new business takes off." My stomach turned, but I smiled. And I recorded every word. The last twist came 2 days later. I got a call from Nina. At first I thought it was a mistake. Then I picked up. "Elise, I think I messed up," she said. She was crying. I didn't know he was married at first, I swear. And now? He took out a loan in my name too. I didn't speak. Just listened. He said we were partners. He said the money was to get the business going. But now collectors are calling me. And I found documents with your name on them. I think he's done this before. She sounded scared. Desperate. Then she asked, "Can we talk?"
Please.
Maybe we can help each other. I don't trust Nina. I never will. But in that moment, I knew something important. Mark had finally started to cannibalize the people closest to him. He was cornered, desperate, and sloppy. The man who tried to ruin me was about to destroy himself. And I was going to be there for every second of it. After Nina called and told me Mark had taken out a loan in her name, I knew the time had come. He was running out of people to use. His stories were starting to fall apart. The walls were closing in on him, and this time, he couldn't sweet-talk his way out of it. But I still needed to land the final blow the right way. I wanted it to be legal.
Permanent. Public.
I met Nina in person. We met at a coffee shop in Longmont, somewhere halfway between us. She looked tired, thinner than in her social media photos. She had the energy of someone whose whole life was crashing. I didn't pity her, but I saw she was real now. Not some Instagram fantasy. Just another woman Mark had used. She brought paperwork, bank letters, emails, screenshots. Mark had taken out a small business loan using her identity. She thought she was co-signing. She wasn't. He forged her signature on half the forms. He also promised to pay her rent while they built their company. He never did. She was facing eviction. I asked her straight out, "Are you willing to testify?" She nodded.
Yes.
I want him to pay. My lawyer filed for an emergency hearing. We pushed for a court order to freeze his business assets, which were still legally tied to both Nina and me. Because he used our names, we had standing. The court granted it. Mark's accounts were locked within 48 hours. His company was flagged by the state for potential fraud. His bank froze his access due to suspicious activity. And that wasn't even the best part. I filed a police report.
So did Nina.
Then Kelly, the ex-girlfriend from years ago, agreed to come forward. She gave a sworn statement about what Mark did to her. 3 women. 1 pattern. My lawyer forwarded everything to the district attorney. And just like that, Mark became the target of a criminal investigation. The arrest happened fast. A detective came to my house 2 weeks later, just to confirm some of the documentation. He said they'd been reviewing everything and were preparing charges. I didn't tell the kids anything. Just said Daddy was working through some big mistakes. The next week, while Mark was driving to meet some new investors, they pulled him over on I-25. He was arrested on the spot for wire fraud, forgery, identity theft, credit fraud, and 2 counts of financial abuse. Bail was denied. They called him a flight risk. The court date was scheduled for early fall. But before that happened, I sat across from him one last time for the divorce hearing. He looked awful.
Pale. Thinner. No shoot.
Wrinkled shirt. His new lawyer looked tired already. My lawyer had everything lined up. Evidence. Witnesses. Bank records. Business records. Emails. Texts. The audio from the cafe where he told me he'd cut me in if I behaved. The judge didn't even blink. Mark was ordered to pay restitution to both Nina and me, full back taxes. With penalties, all legal fees. He was stripped of all claims to the house, the savings, or any shared property. He also lost custody. The judge gave me full legal and physical custody of the kids. Supervised visitation only, if he completed therapy and stayed out of prison. Mark sat there in silence. When we walked out, he didn't say a word. He just stared down at the floor like a ghost. Nina moved out of Denver. I haven't seen her since. She sent me one message a month later. Just 2 words. Thank you. Kelly sent me a check, not big, just $100, with a note that said, "For your kids." I wish someone had stopped him when I couldn't. I didn't cash it, but I still have it in a drawer. Mark was sentenced in November. 3 years in prison. 2 years probation after. He cried in court. Not for what he did, just because he got caught. As for me, I kept the house. I used part of the restitution money to finish the kitchen. Nothing fancy, just what I'd planned for years. White cabinets. Quartz counters. A deep sink that makes washing dishes almost feel peaceful. I went back to full-time work. Harder, but steady. The kids are doing okay. I got them into therapy. Answer their questions the best I can without poisoning their view of their dad. But I also don't lie. I tell them, some people choose the wrong things. We don't have to. And here's the part one didn't expect. I looked back at my own part in this. How many signs I ignored. How I let myself be told I was overreacting. How I made myself smaller to keep the peace. That won't happen again. One night, about a month after the sentencing, I got a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single sentence, handwritten. "You always were smarter than me." I burned it. And then I poured a glass of wine, stood in my finished kitchen, and sat in the silence. The kind that finally feels safe. The kind that's mine.